Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Remember 11. Because I am a big dummy, I forgot that there's more pages to some of the tips. Oh gosh, I was in such a rush. Which is really weird because on my personal playthrough for these first few ones, I read these and I remember that there was a second page, so I don't know why I just forgot. But anyway, I'll just read what I missed. I'll read this first page again. Might as well to refresh what to refresh what Laplace's demon is. A concept proposed by Pierre-Simon Laplace, a French mathematician and philosopher. Suppose there exists a demon that is an entity that possesses the ability to know, at a certain moment, the state of all things in the universe. Then, no matter how brief this moment is, it would always be enough for the demon to unravel everything that happened in the past or will happen in the future. End time for the next page. What Laplace was trying to say with this is that basically, everything which occurs in the world has been predetermined from the beginning. That, no matter how big or how small an event is, its occurrence is by no means accidental, but in fact inevitable. In philosophy, this is called causal determinism. Okay, so that clears up what Laplace's demon is. If I didn't read the second page, I would be confused of what this is, but now I know what it is. So basically, it's like a metaphor. Yeah, a concept proposed. A metaphor saying that, everything which occurs in the world has been predetermined from the beginning. Which is kind of cool, in which maybe if I'm doing a theory in the future, I might reference that. If I'm doing a theory in the future, I might reference Laplace's demon. It seems like something I would, but who knows? Okay, next one. This has 13 pages. Cloning and laws on cloning. The bodies of all living things are derived from biological blueprints called genes, DNA. The methods used to analyze and manipulate the information stored in genes, recombination, synthesis, and other similar technologies are collectively classified under the umbrella term of genetic engineering. Currently, the technology enjoying the limelight in the field of genetic engineering is cloning technology. The term clone is from biology. It refers to a life form produced through asexual reproduction, whose cells are perfectly genetically identical to those of its parents. Those born from this technology are called human clones. As an aside, the word clone is derived from the Greek word klon, meaning twig. Oh. In 1997, the birth in England of the world's first somatic cell clone, a sheep named Dolly, was announced. The successful creation of Dolly shed new light on the potentials of genetic engineering. Dolly was different from the embryonic cell clones that had previously been born from reproductive cell tissue. She was cloned from the mammary tissue, somatic cells, of an adult sheep, making her the first somatic cell clone using nuclear transfer. Hereinafter simply clone in the world. In other words, the success of the technology to create a somatic cell clone using nuclear transfer served to verify the hypothesis that if somatic cells were available, it would be possible to bring any animal back to life as an exact copy, any number of times. After that, various transgenic clones were created, but since the process of their birth, cell development, was viewed as diverging too far from the natural way, human cloning research was banned or otherwise strictly regulated. In the year 2001, the pronounced human-related cloning law, was being enforced in Japan. Additionally, principal countries such as England, France, and Germany have prohibited the creation of human clones, calling it an affront to human dignity. However, the combined power of forces such as sheer human curiosity, infertility problems, and possibly the wish to meet with lost loved ones again will not let it be stopped altogether. Thus, illegal research continued behind the scenes, and before long, the birth cries of the very first human clones were heard in the world. As a result, various protests and controversies took root, and in many countries, the ethical issue was back on the table for the furious debate about to unfold. In the midst of this, A trial concerning the issue of the birth of clones was held. The year was 2010. The accused, a certain lone scientist, he had created a clone of his own son, and the reason for that, he said, was simply, I just wanted to see my son, who was killed in the accident, one more time, no matter the cost. But before long, his secret had been revealed, and thus judgment was pronounced upon him. And the result of the judge's decision was life imprisonment. However, when the content of the cloned boy's testimony was reported, it caused a complete turnover of public opinion, which grew powerful enough to lead to amendment of the law in the end. So what was it that the boy said so plaintively through his tears? Papa didn't do anything wrong. I'm so grateful to Papa, because Papa is the one who gave me this life. Aw. And so, that same year saw the lifting of the ban of the birth of human clones. Now, anyone was free to use cloning technologies as a form of infertility treatment, as long as permission from the proper authorities has been granted. Since then, legal human clones have continued to be born. It has even been estimated that by the year 2019, 1 to 2 of every 1,000 primary school children will be clones. As for the revised cloning law, for it had been struck down by public opinion rallied simply for the sake of the happiness of one small boy. Perhaps it truly was a law that stood in opposition to human kindness. However, even after amendment of the law, many problems still remained. Clone people face opposition and discrimination. As previously stated, the paradoxical method of their birth led some people to shun them. Since the clone's genetic information was perfectly identical to that of their nuclear plasmid provider, genome mother or original, they were markedly referred to as copies of the original. However, strictly speaking, this belief is mistaken. At the time of a clone's creation, he or she inherits the mitochondria of the woman who provided the unfertilized egg, host mother. Since the genome mother and host mother are two different people, the clone cannot be said to be an exact replica of the original. Perhaps there is really no solution to such problems. Unless humanity gets more accustomed to clones with time and deepens their understanding of genetic engineering, until then, clones and their supporters can only keep on hoping, believing that the day will surely come when clones can live without fear. Finally, we shall introduce a certain person who had global influence in the field of genetic engineering. He is Japan's Professor Morino Shiguzu. Since the latter part of the 20th century, Professor Morino has taken part in the International Human Genome Project, where he had been credited with the discovery of a groundbreaking method for analyzing the sequence of DNA. Furthermore, the professor himself is known to have been creating human clones. However, there are opinions as to exactly what number of successfully produced clones his achievements amount to, if any at all, and the truth remains uncertain. Ooh, okay. And that was a lot to read. But wow. So for this game, for this universe, we just got a backstory on the clone law. And that was really interesting. Okay, so that name sounded familiar, so I went and did some research. So it was a character in Never Seven, a visual novel I didn't read because it was too boring. But I did some research and was also the doctor who convinced Yubisai Harukana to clone herself, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I guess finally we get to proceed with the story. Okay. I held my hand up in refusal. Mayuzumi made a grab for Yuni's cup, but her hand was slapped away. Mayuzumi's greed makes me want to voice my objection, just keep quiet. No, come on, let's be loud. Voice my objection. Are you serious? Are you always gonna do this? Hmm. Okay. So if she keeps referencing, the code, I think those are codes of law. Those are laws basically of police. So is Mayuzumi an officer? Hmm. I don't know. Maybe she has something to do with the police or the law. I think she looks more of a law woman. A law woman? She looks more like a woman who has connections to the law. Really? Marizumi glared at me hatefully. The intensity of that glare made me flinch unintentionally. Marizumi quickly stood up from the table and returned to the corner of the room. It seems that had become her territory. Slipping into the nest of blankets she built, Marizumi hugged her knees and was still. As if to comfort me, Yomiki placed his hand on my shoulder. Thus the meal, savage in comparison to those at Sphia, ended. Hmm. Okay. Black. Nothing. Cause and reason. Why is it that the flow of time feels so slow when there's nothing to do? I know, right? In the end, what we call time is a subjective thing, vague and prone to frequent fluctuations. It felt like an eternity had passed since that meal. At long last, the outside had become wrapped in darkness. The four of us occasionally had fragmented conversations with frequent pauses in between, but most of the time was spent in the continuing silence. As if starting the night watch, Yomigi had quietly camped himself in front of the drum stove with his eyes shut. It was probably to preserve his strength. Marizumi, too, had shut herself up in her own territory, having not moved even once. My stomach, which had gone without dinner, continued to make groaning sounds. Oh, mine too, mine too, actually. Wanting to conserve my energy, I pulled my blanket over my head like the other two had and kept my eyes shut. Due to the hunger, it felt as if my stomach had a fever. I struck my stomach with my fist and endured the hunger. I thought the sensation of hunger was a clue as to the true nature of this situation. The personality exchange occurred, and I remembered getting hungry. Even though I had eaten my fill at Sphia, Satoru must be happy. In that case, it showed that the entirety of our bodies didn't change as well. It was a strange hypothesis, but with this, I could reject the possibility that my body had transformed into that of Yukido Satoru and jumped over there. I advanced my speculation while watching the steam rise from the kettle. It was my brain that felt hunger. The feeling of the need to eat comes from a signal sent out by nerves in the digestive system that is felt as hunger. Then, it would be wrong to think that our brains were switching back and forth, wouldn't it? As to the likelihood of that, I tried to find some way to verify it. However, I concluded that it was impossible to do so. I felt hungry immediately after transfer, as soon as my body became that of Fuyukara Kokoro. If our brains themselves had switched, the blood inside the brain should have accumulated sugar to be used for energy to some extent. In other words, I shouldn't have remembered that I was hungry immediately. It would be appropriate to think that my mind never separated from my body in this world, and that the hunger signal was continuously being sent out. Oh. It's interesting, I murmured in a small voice. Even Even if my brain jumped into Satoru's skull and perfectly united with the nerve tissue of his spinal cord with a pop, what awaits after that would be a rejection response attack beyond all imagination. Rejection response. Let's see. Rejection. The refusal of the body to accept transplanted foreign tissue, a defensive reaction meant to protect it against infection. When an organ or similar tissue from another person is transplanted, it is viewed as a foreign substance by the immune system, which will attempt to destroy the tissue and expel it from the body. This type of immune system attack is called rejection. Oh, I never knew that. Okay. Something like swapping brains is nonsense. As expected, this can only be interpreted by my personality, my consciousness being exchanged. There's no other explanation. But what is consciousness in the first place? The me at Sphere was definitely Fuyukawa Kokoro's personality. It had entered Yukiro Satoru, but it was me. If I borrowed the figurative comparison from Satoru's note, the driver operating the car known as Yukiro Satoru is unmistakably Fuyukawa Kokoro. The reason I think the me in that world and the me in this world are the same is... what? What is me to begin with? While thinking this, I came to a single conclusion. Huh. Yeah. I saw this documentary on TV. As I pointed out, the mechanism called memory is, simply put, a network of neural circuits. For example, say you want to memorize the word apple. When memorizing the word apple, it is necessary for your brain cells to branch into dendrites and lengthen into each other connected at the synapse. Physically, it is red, circular, and a fruit. A variety of different elements must be remembered in combination for you to be able to recall it. Okay, let's see what synapse is. Oh. Skip one again. A communication method between neurons. Neurons send messages to each other via synapses. Okay. But maybe we're gonna get another tip and it's gonna fill that void. Like the clone law did. Guess it just doesn't go in order. Okay. The circuit necessary for remembering apple requires the recollection of the word apple to be completed. In other words, memory is asking, in what pattern are your brain cells connected? It goes without saying, but Satoru's brain and my brain are different. Even so, the memories that were supposed to have been engraved in my brain only were recalled by Satoru's brain. Does this mean that the moment my consciousness flew into Satoru's brain, the neural network inside his brain changed and connected in the shape of Fuyukawa Kokoro's memories? Oh, okay, now I know what she's talking about. I wasn't quite sure, but now I know what she's talking about, and... that's interesting. Okay. Oh, there you go. I was right. It's kinda out of order. A bundle of nerve cells, composed of a cell body, an axon, and dendrites, receives and transmits stimuli. You know, if I took biology, I would probably know a bunch of this stuff, but I took chemistry instead. Yeah, I wonder myself. Or is it that the host computer is in my skull in the shelter cabinet and only the client terminal is where Satoru is? Like a remote control robot. Rather than the neural circuitry of the brain changing in the blink of an eye, the possibility of this being the case feels much higher. Interesting. Host computer. In a network of two or more interconnected computers, the most powerful computer in the group, which performs most of the computations and network control, is known as the host computer. Simple enough. Client. In a system consisting of two or more interconnected computers, the client is a terminal that receives commands from the host computer. Yeah, stuff I knew already. But still, good to read. I wrapped myself up in my blanket and lay down with a soft thud. My head was starting to hurt from all this thinking. Suddenly, I noticed both Yomigi and Uni let out a groan similar to mine. The two of them were looking at a portable radio they were holding, scrutinizing it carefully. Feeling revitalized, I inquired. Why do men always recklessly try to take things apart? Well, I don't. Yomigi seemed somehow cheerful and took a survival knife from his breast pocket. He tried to unscrew the radio using the knife's edge, but the knife was too large in the first place, so it was a fierce battle. Having expressed his disappointment, Uni returned the radio to his pocket. Why does he have it? And, with his hand in his pocket, he put on a smile as if he were playing a trick. Uni rushed over and brought his face close to mine. Okay, Uni, he said, lowering his voice and winking. Pulling at my hand, Uni led me toward the basement storeroom. Trust and deception. When we reached the underground storeroom, Uni glanced around to confirm that no one else was there. And then, with a smile that looked as if he had come up with a good prank, he put his hand in his pocket. Oh. Oh, candy. Yay! In the palm of his hand were two candies. Yeah, let's be greedy. Aww. Tombi? Tombi probably refers to Maizumi. Oh. I thought it would be unfair to the other two upstairs, but... Same, Kokoro, same. I should really eat after this. Furikawa Kokoro's body was hungry. It's not like we can break up hard candy and divide it between us. Ooh. Melon flavored or pineapple flavored? I wonder if it really matters. Plot twist. This is the most important choice of the game. Ugh. I would be seriously surprised if it was. But I doubt it. It's just a simple, cutesy choice. I like melon. High class. Yep. Uni placed the hand... Ugh. Uni placed the hard candy firmly in my hand. Somehow it felt as if we were in a candy store. I unwrapped the candy and tossed it into my mouth. It may have been a melon taste artificially produced using sweeteners, but it was very delicious. Uni smiled while popping the pineapple candy into his mouth. Wait, how does he know that? Oh, did Kokoro tell him? Because I remember. Okay, I don't remember Kokoro telling him during the plane ride. We both rolled the candy around in our mouths and smiled. Wow, Uni. My face turned red as I replied. Uni's sudden request had panicked me, and I was suddenly angry. Oh wow, Uni. The dual surname bill. Dual surnames. With the approval of the bill in 2008, married couples may decide to use either partner's surname or retain separate family names. Oh, I thought that was always a rule. Or, I don't know. Now that he mentions it, that's right. But when I get married, I want to change my name to be the same as my spouse's. It's a dream of mine. After a moment of friendly chatter, I gathered my resolve and decided to ask him. Oh, okay. Ooh, what do I do? Ooh. I am so sorry. I did not know the first half was gonna be silent, like no system audio at all. I don't know if that's my fault or Camtasia Recorders, but it's very stupid. There's a switch. I wish there was no switch. You know, to turn off or on the system audio for Camtasia. Apparently it was off. It's so stupid. I swear. I'm pretty sure it was on right before I'm recording this right now. And if it turns out to be off, I'm gonna be so mad. This happened to me a year ago on my Ever 17 Let's Play. And the worst thing was, it was on the final episode. Oh, how disappointed I was. And I got a few dislikes too. Well, whatever. But anyway, hopefully it's working. Hopefully first 30 minutes didn't bother you with just my voice. But anyway, we have an important decision to do, right? We have to ask if Uni is a twin or if Uni is a clone. I'm thinking let's ask if Uni is a clone. I don't know. I don't know why this is such a difficult decision. Okay, well, here goes nothing.
ユニ こういうことを聞くのはすごく失礼かもしれないけれど、あなた以外に世界にもう一人ユニと遺伝子組成が完全に一致している存在がいると思う？
I asked Uni in a roundabout way. Uni exists as two people. The simplest solution would be if he were a clone. If he were a clone, that would take care of the contradiction of witnessing him both at Svea and here. However,
つまり僕のクローンが、もしくは僕が仮にクローンだとして本物の僕がこの世界のどこかにいるかもってこと？
Uni finished his sentence after a pause and asked me,
気分を悪くさせていたらごめんなさい。
別に気分を悪くしてなんてないよ。でも僕のクローンがいる可能性も僕がクローンな可能性も多分ないと思うよ。
Probably no.
そもそもまだクローン自体この世界で 0. 数%未満しか存在していないと思うし。
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what I read.
そんな人とこんな雪山で一緒に遭難する可能性なんて限りなくゼロに近いと思わない？
それもそうよね。ごめんなさい。
ココロン、ちょっとごめんなさいって言い過ぎだよ。本当に僕は気にしてないってば。
Oh, Uni.
ありがとう。変な気遣いまでさせちゃってごめんね。
もうだから。
Uni placed his hand on the ladder, grinning like the Cheshire cat.
それじゃあ僕上に行くね。二人っきりでずっと下にいたら怪しまれちゃうからさ。
Huh.
エッチいことしてるんじゃないかって。
Of course.
子供が何言ってるの？
After I said that, Uni looked at me with a glance that gave me chills.
子供かどうか試してみろ。
What the heck? My heart started beating harder at his strangely seductive way of speaking. My cheeks reddened ever so slightly.
もうココロンこそ本当に20歳？実は子供なんじゃないの？
Ooh.
こーら、
冗談だよ。怒らないでココロン。
Uni apologized and teasingly stuck out his tongue.
それにしても僕がクローンかもなんてどうしてそんなことが気になったんだろうね。変なココロン。
An oddly precocious smile on his face, Uni said those last few words and climbed up the ladder. There was a single reason I thought he had a clone. Because I have witnessed two Unis. If he doesn't have a clone, how is it possible to encounter the same person in two places, both this shelter cabin and Svea? I unconsciously crunched the candy into tiny pieces while pondering. Even though I wanted to take my time eating it, I rolled the candy that had become as small as a grain around on the top of my tongue and enjoyed the fruit flavor. And then I realized...
どうしたあの子？私の好き嫌いを知ってるの？
Oh, Kokoro, you got it! You freaking got it! I knew it! How does he freaking know? I talked about them when we were eating breakfast at Svea. Other than that time, I've talked about which foods I hate. In other words, does this mean that the Uni that I had breakfast with at Svea and the Uni that just gave me candy held the same memories?
同じ記憶を持っている。
Just a moment ago, I was thinking something similar. About the relationship between memory and the brain. But the personality jumping to somewhere else in the world.
まさか。
Oh. Could Uni be doing the same thing? Was Uni experiencing a personality exchange just like us? You know, I kinda thought about that a bit earlier. But I wasn't sure. Maybe. Huh. Because Uni did talk about DID a bit, right? How else would he know if he wasn't at Svea? And if that's true, then Why is he kinda just playing dumb? Well, his archetype is a trickster, but I don't want to believe Uni is bad. What if he's doing this for a greater cause or something? I don't know. Uni is really strange. Whenever Satoru and I underwent a personality exchange, perhaps Uni's personality was undergoing an exchange as well? No, I can't say whether it's at the same time or not. However, it was at least certain that Uni had been transferring between the shelter cabin and Sphere like we were. The Uni that heard me speak at Sphere had jumped over here. But how can Uni be both here and in Sphere? In Satoru's and my case, we exchange bodies. Perhaps in Uni's case, he occasionally gets the same body?
たまたま同じ肉体
I was amazed at the silliness of my own idea. As Uni's memory remains continuous between the shelter cabin and Sphere, maybe his personality was jumping like ours were, or so I deduced. However, that deduction didn't provide any answers about the mysterious phenomenon of seeing Uni in both places. Uni said that he wasn't a clone. If that's the case, then having an identical body over on the other side is impossible, isn't it?
待ってよ
Who said that Uni even had two bodies at the same time? It might be that I'm simply misunderstanding things. When I'm at Sphere, I have no idea what the situation is in the shelter cabin. When I'm in the shelter cabin, I have no idea what the situation is at Sphere. Which means, and this is at the very most a hypothesis, what Uni's experience is, to borrow a word from science fiction, teleportation, is it not? Kokoro, do you think so? I don't think so. I think it's just something else that I have no idea. I know what teleportation is. The act by which an object or person, by use of power such as ESP, moves instantaneously to another place, also referred to as instantaneous movement. Moreover, can it be considered that at the same time that my personality transfers, both Uni's personality and body transfer as well? In other words, Satoru doesn't meet with Uni. Uni is constantly by my side. On top of that unexplainable phenomenon, to pile on even more mysterious logic, a cruelly distorted thought came to me. Right now, I can think of only one possible explanation for the events happening around me. There's a way to verify it. It would be best to just ask Uni. But I wonder. Uni hasn't shown any signs of being confused. Exactly! You'd usually want to consult with others if you fall into a situation where you're teleporting between places. Until I get my hands on some solid proof, I hold off on asking Uni. Ask Satoru. See if Uni's actually there when Satoru's in his own body. Those were my thoughts. I won't confuse him unnecessarily, because we're on the brink of an extreme situation here, which could be called a disaster. Also, I think Kokoro's explanation is wrong too, because the other people know who Uni is in Sphere. For him to just randomly disappear and reappear, it doesn't make sense to me. I nodded to myself once and put my hand on the ladder to climb up. When I go up, I see Yomugi sitting in a chair doing knife maintenance. Okay. Knife maintenance. How do I not know how to pronounce the word? As the knife is used, it will gradually grow dull over time. To maintain the optimum level of sharpness, daily care is essential. The most basic form of daily maintenance is to polish the blade after each use. Water is very bad for knives. Most modern knives are made from stainless steel, which is resistant to rust. However, this doesn't mean that they're rust-proof. Therefore, they should be dried off quickly after coming in contact with water. To return a dull knife to its sharpened state, different methods of honing and touch-up exist. Honing refers to sharpening a knife. To touch up a knife means to improve its ability to cut. When a knife becomes dull, it's best to think about seeing to it right away. He was wiping the blade of the knife with a cloth. Learning what he was doing, I went to Yomugi's side.
お手入れですか？
ああ、さっきラジオを分解しようとして使っただろう。油がついたかもしれないからな。使い終わったら汚れを拭き取る。ナイフにとっての常識だ。
Yomiki continued to carefully wipe the blade as he said that.
ナイフってのはデリケートな代物なんだ。きちんと日頃から手入れしてあげないといざって時に役に立たなくなるからね。
After he finished wiping, Yomiki started to carefully check the knife. It seems it was perfect. He nods in satisfaction. Then, sheathing the knife, he placed it on the surface of the table.
さて、ストーブの火を点検しておくか。
Leaving the knife where it was, Yomiki walked over to the stove. I picked up the knife out of curiosity. It was considerably heavy. Its weight was much greater than I imagined from its appearance. I pulled it out from the sheath. The overall length was about 34.5 centimeters. The blade itself was about 20 centimeters in length. The blade was thick, about 5 millimeters at the blunt end.
すごい、よく切れそう。っていうか、これで切られたら痛そう。
It's like a combat knife used by French mercenary troops.
おい、危ないから気をつけろよ。
aka French Foreign Legion. A unit in the French army created in 1831 by Louis Philippe, the then King of French. The purpose of its creation was to reduce wartime casualties amongst native French soldiers by using mercenaries from other countries and foreign nationals instead. The mercenary legion troops know none of the word surrender, nor are they taught how to act when captured. They are trained to fight to the death. The Mercenary Legion has fought in many conflicts, such as the French conquest of Algeria, the Ignuit War, and the Algerian Civil War. Many foreign soldiers lost their lives in these conflicts. Even now, any French troops dispatched overseas are almost always from the Mercenary Legion. They were recently deployed in areas such as Afghanistan and Kosovo. Huh. Okay. Interesting. Yumiki noticed that I had taken out the knife without permission and told me to take care.
怪我するぞ。
大丈夫ですよ。
I say baselessly. I softly touched the blade of the knife. The chilly coolness transferred to my fingers.
それにしてもすごいナイフですね。
歯に触れるんじゃない。せっかく拭いたばかりなのに。指の油がつくじゃないか。
ごめんなさい。
I tried to apologize, and at that instant, oh, I knew it. I freaking knew that would happen, to be honest. I just knew that would happen. And then, oh my god, oh. Okay, this is gonna be, something's going on. Something's gonna go on. But let me finish what I was saying. What was I saying? Right, Sato's gonna appear with a knife in his hand, and he might cut himself. Ooh, and then when Kokoro comes back. Okay. When I came to, Utsumi was standing in front of me. I jumped again? Flustered, I looked at the alarm clock above the bed. 6:03 p.m. As I turned to look, Utsumi had suddenly grasped my arm. Her face had a ghastly expression. No, more one of anxiety.
どうかしましたか？
何かね、こう胸騒ぎがするの。
胸騒ぎ？
Utsumi nods slightly.
とても嫌な予感が。例えば、そう。
Could this be about Inubushi Keiko?
今にも地震が来そうな気配
Oh.
みたいな。
Okay.
地震ですか？
ええ。私の気のせいならいいんだけど。
ここって北海道ですよね。
そうよ。稚内の沖合の島。
北海道って地震多いんですか？私のイメージでは地震イコール東海地方って感じがして。
地震は日本中起こるわ。北海道でも 大きな被害を出した地震が発生してる。奥尻島の地震とかね。
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Let's view that tip. An island to the southwest of Hokkaido, off the western edge of the Ushima Peninsula, it was severely damaged in the southwestern Hokkaido earthquake that struck in July of 1993. Heisei 5. Oh. I remember hearing about that earthquake. With a kind smile, Utsumi said,
ごめんなさい。気のせいだったらいいの。不安にさせたら謝るわ。
いいえ。
また冬川さんになったのね。
This time I answered with a yes. I felt as if the floor had disappeared. My body floated as if it were falling. Oh my gosh. No, a big tremor. It's an earthquake.
やっぱり。
Darn, how does she know? I caught the straggling Natsumi in my arms. Huddling together, the two of us crouched to protect ourselves against falling objects. Crashing sounds came from things falling in the kitchen. This was probably a pretty severe one. It's going to be a lot of trouble to clean up. The moment I had that thought, along with the ear-splitting sounds, all the lights disappeared. Again. The earthquake... oh, right. Earthquake caused a blackout? We heard a scream from a distance. It was Yuni's voice. Hotori was probably screaming voicelessly as well.
言ってあげなきゃ。
Within the violent shaking, Utsumi tried to stand. I grabbed onto her arm.
ダメ。今歩き回っては危険です。でもあの子たちが揺れが収まったら行ってあげましょう。
The intense tremor settled down after about 30 seconds. Utsumi stands up to snap to her feet and flies out of the room. I followed after her. Checking up on Yuni, obviously.
私、ユニの方見てきます。
Utsumi nodded without turning around toward Hotori's room.
ユニ、無事。
I came flying into Yuni's room. He was crouching in the corner of the room with a blanket pulled over his head. It was like when we first met in this room. Oh, right. Face distorted in terror. Large teardrops flowing from his eyes.
怖いよ。怖いよ。心。
Oh.
もう大丈夫。大丈夫。
Oops. He may be remembering the plane crash. The sensation of falling with a sudden jerk was similar to the gravity loss on that airplane.
心、僕を一人ぼっちにしないでよ。大丈夫だよ。ここにいる。手繋いでてあげるから。ね。
I gripped onto Yuni's palm firmly with my hand, just like at that time in the crash.
あなたは心じゃないよ。
Crying, Yuni clung to me.
怖かったよ。
Poor Yuni.
泣かないで。泣かないで。大丈夫だからね。
Still crying, Yuni hugged me tight. I rubbed her small back again and again.
ユニ君は無事だった。
Oh, Hotori. Utsumi had entered the room. She was gently holding Hotori's shoulder. Hotori's face was blue, but it didn't seem as if she was injured.
なんとか無事です。
A somewhat relieved look had appeared on Utsumi's face, but her expression was still stiff.
よかった。でもまだ安心はできないわ。
どうしてですか？
津波が来ないとも限らないから。
Ooh, that could be right. That's right.
津波？
The image of a tsunami and the sea during winter didn't connect immediately.
ええ。奥尻の地震では津波によって大きな被害が出たの。アオサギ島も地理的に同じような位置関係にある。安心はできないわ。
Hotori grabbed onto Utsumi's arm with anxiety on her face, while gently stroking her head.
大丈夫よ。私が守ってあげるからね。最後までちゃんと。
僕たち死んじゃうの？
そんなわけないでしょ。絶対に平気だよ。
Feeling Uni's hand shaking, I clasped it tightly once again.
津波を防ぐ手立てはないんですか？高いところに登るとか。
時計台はどうかな？あそこなら。
The clock tower. That's the place that Satoru jumped off of.
時計台は登る方法がわからないの。わからない？ええ。有機堂くんなら知ってるかもしれないけど。
However, Satoru's personality isn't here right now.
それじゃあ津波が来ないことを祈るしかないってこと？そうなるわ。
In slower cases, it can take a tsunami over 10 minutes to come. In the darkness, we made our way to the living area mostly by touch. Because the living area had a large window, it was slightly brighter there. Tableware had scattered on the floor of the kitchen and living area in the shock of the earthquake. There were also broken objects there. Things like kitchen knives had fallen too, so it was dangerous. Looking at it made me once again realize that a huge earthquake had occurred. The television was still plugged into the power supply, but the blackout had made the screen go dark. We weren't able to obtain any information. With me holding onto Uni's trembling shoulder, we gathered ourselves together and held our breath. Thinking we might be able to hear the sound of a tsunami approaching, we strained our ears. The 10 or so minutes that passed felt like an eternity. What we heard was only the roaring of the raging snowstorm. The ominous sound of an approaching wave never arrived.
僕たち助かったのかな？心。
He called me Kokoron. He had only ever called me that when he was scared. But it made me really happy whenever he called me Kokoron. Grasping his hand, I opened my mouth. We couldn't stay together until the end of the time of the crash, but we're together now, right? That's what I intended to say. However, my consciousness was cut off there. What? Oh, what's happening? Again, this sensation. The sensation of the bounding line of the body being lost, and everything melting away. A floating feeling where you don't even know whether you're facing up or down. That, and there is no unease. An absolute feeling of relief rules over me. For all eternity. If only I can remain in this time for all eternity. Huh. Was that like... So was it by random? Personality exchange? When I came to, I was inside the shelter cabin. Wrapped in a blanket, I was watching the fire in the stove. I should have been shivering in fear of earthquakes and tsunamis just a few seconds ago, but the current me was shivering from the cold instead. In many ways, I had no time to relax. If things continue this way, sooner or later I'm likely to just collapse, both mentally and emotionally. Right, I need to check the time. I looked down at the watch on my right wrist. Huh? It was gone again. What the heck, Satoru? What are you doing? Jeez, just what is going on? Getting irritated, I looked around and saw it lying on the table. I looked at the face of the watch. The hands were pointing to 6:36. Well, that happened quicker.
6時36分か。
どうした？ブツブツ独り言言って。
Yomugi peeked at my face, his expression worried.
なんでもありません。ちょっと考え事してて。
その口調は冬川さんか？
はい。 looking as if he wanted to say, "Oh brother," Yomugi scratched his head. Then his bearded face distorted into a forced smile.
晩飯は乾パンだ。味気ないが食っといた方がいい。君は朝飯抜きなんだしな。
I had only had a single lick of hard candy, so my stomach was painfully empty.
いただきます。
Yomugi handed me a can of biscuits and a cup of chamomile tea. I tossed the biscuits into my mouth. Indeed, they had no taste at all. I had a bite of one yesterday too, and I still definitely couldn't call them delicious. I guess expecting their emergency rations to be delicious is too much to ask for though. But even then, I had to eat. If I didn't eat, I wouldn't live. I washed down the biscuits with chamomile tea.
なんでここに置かれているのがカモミールティーなのかわかるかい？
鎮静作用があるって言ってましたけど、何か理由があるんですか？
合ってないような理由だけどね。カモミールティーは不眠にも効くんだよ。こんな極限状況じゃ神経が高ぶって寝られなくなるだろう。少しでも落ち着いて安眠ができるようにっていう配慮だね。
でも冬山で寝ちゃうのって危険じゃないですか？よくコントなんかで眠ったら死ぬぞビシッバシーなんてやってるのを見ますけど。
確かに低体温症が進むと急激に眠くなったりするんだが、そうでない限りは睡眠はとった方がいいんだ。眠らないと体力を著しく消耗する。カモミールティーが置かれているのはそれなりに理にかなっているというわけ。
Saying that, Yomugi stuck a finger deep into the can of biscuits. He picked out a piece of rock sugar and placed it in his cup. And then he smiled at me, as if to say I should try doing the same. Just as he had, I tried putting a lump of rock sugar into my cup of chamomile tea. It was a little hot, but I stirred it with my finger. The sweetness added to the chamomile tea felt as if it was penetrating every corner of my tired body.
よもぎさんっていろいろ詳しいんですね。
いろいろは詳しくないよ。僕が知ってるのは山のことだけだ。いや、山のことに詳しいというのもちょっと語弊があるな。僕は山のことしか知らないんだ。下界のこと、人々の流行、政治、経済、山以外のことは何もわからない。特に
A voice rang from the corner of the room and interrupted his speech.
そんなに山に詳しいんだったらこの状況を何とかしなさいよ。
Gosh, Maizumi.
ここはあんたのホームグラウンドなんでしょ、山男。
Yomugi shrugged his shoulders.
特に女という生き物が何よりも僕にはわからないね。
Maizumi, who until now had been lying around wrapped in her blanket, raised herself up. Raising one eyebrow, she stared at Yomugi.
いつの時代を生きてんの？明治？大正？それともジュラ紀？
白亜紀の生まれだ。
三葉虫か。
A trilobite. Arthropods that lived in the Cambrian period. Most had a body length of about 2 to 4 centimeters. Huh.
一応突っ込んでおくが、三葉虫は白亜紀じゃないぞ。
あのね、女という生き物が僕にはわからないなんて今時流行らないって言ってんの。
だから流行り廃りのことは何も知らないって言っただろう。いいから黙って寝てろよ、前泉。
私に命令すんじゃねえよ。
あのな、脅すわけじゃないが、冬山の寒さってのは正真正銘かけねなしの死神だ。弱いやつから順番に、そして確実に命を奪っていく。情け容赦は一切しない。
Maizumi faltered as his grave tone and retreated to her usual sitting position.
分かったな。無駄なエネルギーを使うのはやめるんだな。火がなくなる前に体力を温存しとけ。
ちょっと待ってよ。火がなくなるってどういう意味？勝手に絶やすんじゃないわよ。
薪の量は限られてるんだ。 お前が寒い寒いってうるさいから節約も最小限にとどめて使っちまってる。この分だと明日か明後日には確実に。
冗談よしてよ。そうなる前に何とかしなさいよ。
なんとかって言われてもな、僕にどうしろと。
Wearing her blanket like a mantle, Mayuzumi pointed to the door of the cabin.
助けを呼びに行きなさい。今すぐに。
はいはい、了解しましたよ、女王様。
Yomugi went down into the storeroom with his bag in hand. Without hesitating, he gathered all the mountain climbing equipment and returned.
それじゃあ行ってくるよ。
Are you legitly going, Yomugi? Surprised at Yomugi's words, I... Stop, Yomugi? Warned Mayuzumi. Huh? I have no idea. I'll stop,
待ってください、
Yomugi.
よもぎさん。こんな吹雪の中出て行ったら。
止めるんじゃないわよ。せっかく助けを呼びに行くって言ってんだから。助かるチャンスを不意にしないでよね。
Mayuzumi puffed out her chest as if it were her own achievement.
ああ、舞泉の言う通りだ。せっかく行く気になったんだから止めないでくれよ、冬川さん。
Saying that, Yomugi raised a finger in front of Mayuzumi's face.
下山に1週間、
With a quick movement, he raised another.
救助隊を連れて戻ってくるまでにさらに1週間。
Oh wow. Ignoring the surprise in Mayuzumi's voice, Yomugi put his hands together.
悪いな、舞泉。そういうわけで2週間ばかり留守にするよ。
Wow.
誰か来たらそう伝えといてくれ。
Right in front of me, as I stood there dumbfounded, Yomugi's hand reached for the door.
じゃあな。
Oh,
待ち
bye.
なさいよ。
Flustered, Mayuzumi closed the door. She grabbed Yomugi's arm and yelled.
私たちを見殺しにするっていうの？
お前が助けを呼びに行けって言ったんだろうが。
そんなにかかるとは思わなかったのよ。
Yomugi threw his back to the floor and glared at Mayuzumi.
雪山ではな、たった一人の勝手な行動がチーム全体を死に追いやるんだ。行動だけじゃない。お前みたいなバカなことを言う奴が一人でもいるとチーム全体の連帯感に亀裂が生じるんだ。
そんなに目くじら立てて怒らなくったって。
Wow. Mayuzumi looked down and wrapped herself in her blanket, as if sulking. Going back to her territory, she sat down and hugged her knees. As if to calm himself down, Yomugi took a deep breath and sat next to Mayuzumi. And shifting his tone from violent to gentle, he continued.
なあ、頼むよ舞泉。生き延びたいんだったら僕の言うことを聞いてくれ。君が男の言うことを聞くのが嫌いな女性だってのはうすうす分かってる。でも雪山で生き抜くためには統一された意志が必要なんだ。輪の乱れをついてそこから死が忍び寄ってくる。それが雪山なんだよ。不平や不満は助かったらいくらでも聞いてやるからな。
Mayuzumi had buried her face in her knees, but now cast a sidelong glance at Yomugi. Perhaps Yomugi's words had moved her heart. That's what I thought, but...
はあ、なんだか疲れちゃった。ねえ、顔洗いたいんだけど、お湯沸かしてくれない？
てめえ
Yomugi clenched his fist and made a face as if saying, "If you weren't a woman, I'll really let you have it." Trembling and quivering.
まあまあ、よもぎさん落ち着いて。
真に受けちゃってばっかみたい。冗談よ。
Mayuzumi put the rock sugar from her biscuits into her mouth and chewed on it as she jumped onto the top bunk. It must have been vexing for her to have been defeated by Yomugi's sound arguments. eyes fixed on the wall, Mayuzumi wasn't looking this way. Yomugi released his clenched fist and took a deep breath.
なあ冬川さん、どうして僕はあんな女を助けちまったのかな。
Maybe you fooled around too much in your past life? It would have been like you not to save her, Yomugi-san. Oh. Okay, the first one's kind of mean. Second one, it wouldn't have been like you to save her, Yomugi-san. It's nice. I want to be nice.
助けなかったらよもぎさんらしくないですよ。
When I tell him my true feelings, Yomugi's shoulders droop.
やめてくれよ。そんなこと言われたらいざって時に君を見捨てられなくなる。
見捨てるつもりなんですか？
助かる可能性がなくなったらな。
つまり助かる可能性がある限りは助けてくれるんですね。
Oh.
そうとも言うが、その言い方は少々照れくさいね。
Yomugi scratched the tip of his nose and sat down in front of the stove. He was still wearing all the equipment he had prepared to go for help.
荷物は片付けたらどうですか？
I said, growing anxious. I didn't think he was going to leave us, but the fact that he remained ready to go at any time scared me. If he disappeared, I didn't think we would make it by ourselves.
いや、どうせ出かけるつもりだったからな。
どこへですか？
そんな泣きそうな顔すんなよ、冬川さん。だって墜落機のところへさ。残骸のどこかに無線機があるはずだ。フライトレコーダーとかは別電源になっているって言うだろう。無線機の電源も生きてるかもしれない。
A flight recorder. Okay. Flight recorder, aka black box, an aviation device that automatically records speed, altitude, and other information about the flight in real time. Housed in very sturdy casing, which makes it highly resistant to damage by fire or force trauma. Oh, cool.
もっとも無傷で残っている確率はゼロに等しいが、試してみる価値はあるだろう。他にも食料や役に立ちそうなものが転がってるかもしれないし。
でもこんな吹雪の中出て行ったら。
吹雪が多少収まったらの話だよ。今出て行ったら僕でも死んでしまうよ。
As I ran my hand down his chest, I looked up at him.
くれぐれも気をつけてくださいね。ここではあなただけが頼りなんだから。
Yomugi scratched his nose in embarrassment and nodded while looking away.
その飛行機の残骸を捜索しに行く時のことなんだけど。もちろん私も協力したいのは山々なんだけど。
ああ、そんなことは気にすることないさ。
そうじゃないの。そういう意味じゃなくて、なんていうか、もしかしたらその時私は私じゃないかもしれない。
有機道君のことかい？
そうだから、もしもその時私がサトルだったとしたら、彼によもぎさんにできる限り協力しなさいって。
I said it seriously, but Yomugi raised his voice in laughter.
自分の口からそんなことは言えないよ。
それもそうね。
Yomugi slapped his knee.
それで思い出した。大事なことを忘れてたよ。
大事なことって？
While searching in his pocket, Yomugi-san said,
いや、君らはどうなのかわからないけど、僕にとっては君らは一人なんだよ。人格が変わったからといって別人として認識するのは難しいんだ。何しろ顔や姿形が同じなのだから。
何が言いたいんですか？
Yomugi, who was fumbling around in his pocket, took out a thin piece of paper.
ああ、これだ。
He handed it over to me. It was the thin paper you peel off the surface of a cardboard box. It was the thin paper you peel off the surface of cardboard boxes. Several characters have been written on it.
有機道君に頼まれてたんだ。
これメモ。
Sato had left me a note here as well.
冬川さんが戻ってきたらそれを渡してくれってね。でも冬川さんは扉を開けてただいまってな具合に戻ってくるわけじゃない。だからすっかり忘れていたってわけ。 言ってることわかるかな？
はい、なんとなく。
Yumiki seemed to want Yumiki seemed to want to make an excuse for why he had forgotten to pass me the note, but that didn't matter at all. In an emergency situation like this, asking for perfection is unfair. I didn't have any intention of blaming him. Instead, I was unbearably anxious about Satoru's note.
メモ読みたいんで。
ああ。
Okay, let's see what it says on it. Separating myself from Yomigi, I sat down on the bed. I looked at the scrap of paper. There was only a single line. Please listen to the voice recorder. Oh, I looked in my pocket. I took out a palm-sized voice recorder, VR, and pressed the switch. I tried playing it back. Soon I heard a voice coming from the small speaker of the recorder.
心、さっきのメッセージの続きだ。
It's my voice. My voice, which I don't remember recording. It was proof that, during the time in which I had no memory of being in the shelter cabin, Koko Furukawa's body was being operated by Satoru. I continued listening, growing excited.
またいつ転移が起こるかわからないから、要件だけ話すぞ。いいか。落ち着いて聞いてくれ。実は、どうやら俺の体は。
That's right, the note had ended there. What was up with Satoru's body, I wonder?
何者かに命を狙われているらしい。
Oh. It seems someone is after my life.
狙われてる？どういうことよ？
Like someone wants to kill Satoru. The voice message continued. I continued listening anxiously. But... Oh, why does that happen? No! That's where I'll end today. Ugh. I don't like when that happens. I really don't like when that happens. Oh well, gotta deal with it. Oh well. Let's see. What did we learn today? What did we learn today? A bit more about Lapis's demon and, you know, the tips that I failed to read. Other than that, oh yeah, we asked Uni if he was a clone. He denied it. Kokoro made another theory. She hypothesized that maybe Uni is doing the same thing we're doing, personality exchanging, but he's just, I don't know. He's not confused, and I don't know. Maybe he's tricking all of us. I have no idea. But anyway, that was really all it. Oh, and an earthquake happened, which this probably leaves off. It's probably going to continue from that. And yeah, that's pretty much from what I remember. Maybe there's some other stuff I'll go through while editing, but... Oh, yeah, that's about it. Thank you. So psyched to do more. Anyway, yeah, that's it.